Welcome back to a brand new ranking video here on Max Talks Movies, and today we're going to rank my top 20 through 11 movies of the year as we're about to hit 2023. My name is Max Miller. Welcome back to Max Talks Movies. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. I do these rankings as well as other box office breakdown show every single week, TV show reviews, and movie reviews. So please subscribe, ring the bell. We just got over 130 subscribers, so happy about that. So let's go to 140, keep building it up. Comment down below, what is your top 20 to 11 movies of the year? Are some of my movies actually in your top 10 of the year? Let me know in the comments section. Have a fun discussion about some of these movies. I know some of them will have a lot to talk about, that some of you might not like them, or I might not like. We'll talk about it in the comment section. I respond to every single comment, so definitely have that fun discussion down below. And also, please like the video, guys. The thumbs up button, that's how you support the channel. So as I said yesterday, I did my top 10 worst films of the year. And because I really liked so many movies this year, I'm doing a top 20. So today I'm going to do my top 20 to 11. And then tomorrow's video will be my top 10 movies of 2022, which I'm very excited to talk to you guys about. So let's get into top 20 through 11. I will give some honorable mentions that just missed outside my top 20. I'll give 3 honorable mentions: Chippendale Rescue Rangers, one of the biggest surprises of the year; Jackass Forever; and Men from A24. Those are all honorable mentions that just missed out on getting into my top 20. If you want to see my full list of every single movie I've seen this year, my letterbox is down below. You can look at my full list of movies. So let's get to number 20, and that is another big surprise, a Hulu original film, Prey, a fantastic return to the Predator franchise, a simple concept, a movie that's very efficient, around 90 to 100 minutes, takes its time, is grounded, not tons of dialogue, and has a lot of fun action to it. I think that this is one of the franchises that finally understood what made the first film so good, which is the simple story, people out in the woods with the Predator hunting them. Not this elaborate CGI fest of scientists and all of these things. The fact that this is a prequel, all new characters also adds a lot to the mix. And the fact that this is about a tribe also, I think, really enhances the movie as well. The Predator looks cooler than ever. And I think this is brought a lot of energy back to this franchise. This franchise has kind of been not that talked about as one of the elite franchises in Hollywood for such a long time. And I don't think this film does that, but it brings back a lot more eyes. And this film had tons of buzz. And I'm very interested to see what the Predator franchise does next. But before we get to number 19, I do want to say I've already done each like 8-10 minute reviews of each of these movies. At the end of this video, I'll leave a place for all my movie reviews. If you want to see my full thoughts on these movies, you can find it there. Now to 19, back a movie in January does make my top 20, and that was Scream, the 5th film in the Scream franchise. Again, another franchise that was pretty much dead following really the original film. They did tons of sequels, and while fans of the Scream franchise were there for those films, everyone wasn't that interested really in this franchise. Bringing back Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David O'Craft, but the new cast is obviously what's great about this film as well. I said, a great return to the franchise with a lot of great new characters. And I think David Arquette, it was definitely by far the best part of the returning cast. Obviously, the gem that they found at the time was not very famous, was Jenna Ortega, who is the best part of the new cast. She gets to be a part of that famous now opening scene and being our main character's sister. She did a lot throughout the film, and now they get to use her moving forward, and she is an absolute superstar. And I knew it really she was my favorite part of the movie at the time of its release. You can go back to my review and see. Really pumped for this film, for this franchise to keep going, and for the new film coming out in just a couple of months. Now let's go over to Netflix for a number 18 movie, and that is Hustle, a really great sports film that we just haven't seen that many great sports films. We saw King Richard last year, which is great, and now Hustle. Adam Sandler is fantastic in the film. Now, I have a lot of bias to this movie. This film entirely takes place in Philadelphia. Adam Sandler, his character goes to Temple, and they're wearing a lot of Temple things, and say Federal Donut. So it's a lot of bias and nostalgia for me. Currently goes to Temple and is in the Philadelphia area. that helped. And while there's definitely some cliches in there that definitely hold this movie back just a bit, it has such an uplifting, positive story. And I think for anyone, not even people who just like the NBA, for anyone who doesn't like sports, can really get behind this story. And it was just a great, fresh, new sports film that I was really happy came out this year. To number 17 with one of my favorite comedies of this past year, which was The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. One of the most fun experiences I've had in the movie theater this year, being in a very packed theater with everyone kind of laughing. And I kind of miss, there's just aren't as many comedies and not as many great comedies anymore. And to be in a theater like that, just having an absolute blast with both Nicolas Cage playing himself and Pedro Pascal, who my favorite bromance of 2022. Funny movie that is very fresh. There's not a lot of type of comedies out there, really, since this is the end. You just don't see people playing themselves, and Nick Cage does it times 11, which makes it tons of fun. And the essential part of this movie really is Pedro Pascal. You know Nick Cage is going to do his thing, but can Pedro Pascal match with what Nick Cage is bringing to the table? And he absolutely does. The Paddington 2 joke is still one of my favorite, if not my favorite joke of the entire year in movies. I know once they enter the cop aspect of the movie and the detective star isn't as interesting, but the movie is tons of fun with these two lead actors. Now we're going to go into my number 16 movie of the year. And that movie just came out on Netflix, but I saw it in theaters a month ago. I've seen this movie twice now, and that is Glass Onion, a Knives Out story. I did see this in theaters in that 1 week theatrical run. Then I rewatched it when it dropped on Netflix this past Friday. And again, I believe that this is actually an improvement over the first film. I think that the overall cast is a lot more fun than the first cast. I think they're both very tight, though, the first and second. I would slightly edge out this film. But again, it all comes down to, again, Benoit Blanc, Daniel Craig being fantastic in this role. And it's just overall a fun movie. Yes, the twist isn't the jaw-dropping twist that you maybe expect in a murder mystery, but I like that this film knows that it's not trying to be this mind-blowing plot twist. There's a lot of layers to the film, especially when you get into Janelle Monáe's character, when we hit the halfway point of the movie, and then the whole movie kind of changes once you learn things throughout the entire film. There are things that I missed the first time that I loved that I really had a blast rewatching on the second watch. I think this is going to be a very rewatchable film. And again, another smart franchise moving forward. Keep having Benoit Blanc have all these great casts, especially with Edward Norton, who was perfectly cast. Janelle Monáe and Kate Hudson were definitely huge standouts in this one. Now we're getting to our top 15 movies of the year. Number 15 is another movie that just came out in theaters, and that was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. One of the biggest, I think for me, the biggest surprise of the year. While I was hearing good things, it's so tough to believe that this movie was going to be this good. But it is truly one of the best DreamWorks films in a long time, and the best film in this franchise, the Shrek franchise, since 2004's Shrek 2. It is a really great animated film that improves on what the franchise has set up with this character. The Shrek franchise is back, which is so exciting. This franchise was one of the biggest animated franchises growing up in my childhood, and this is the first film in 11 years. And you're kind of thinking, I was kind of thinking, does this franchise need to keep going? Do we need to see more Puss in Boots films? And after the end of the movie, I was dying for another Shrek film, and I was dying to see Puss in Boots in another project. The Kitty Softpaws Puss in Boots relationship is on point. Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas. Florence Pugh being Goldilocks with the three bears was also tons of fun. The villain of the movie, who I still won't reveal here in this video, one of the coolest designs for an animated character in a long time, and a very more mature villain that you've seen in the Shrek franchise. And one of the biggest things that everyone's talking about is this truly unique animation style, which I hope that this franchise uses moving forward. It really enhanced the fun of this movie. Going to a number 14, probably the movie that no one has really watched, I think, on this list. I wish more people did at the time. I think it came out in February exclusively on HBO Max. and that was The Fallout. Jenna Ortega is having a year. If you follow my channel, I've been a big fan of her all the way since back Babysitter 2. And now I said Scream and this, and then Wednesday, one of my favorite shows of the year. This was probably one of the best performances by a female actress all year long. And for some reason, this film is just no one's talked about it, and because really no one's seen it. It came out so early in the year. She should have been in consideration for some awards. If you're not familiar with The Fallout, there is basically Jenna Ortega is a survivor of a school shooting, and she's trying to navigate life following that. And there's one person who's kind of her bully. They've both kind of reacted similarly to this whole situation, and that's played by her new friend, played by Maddie Ziegler, who's also terrific in the film. But it really comes down to one of the most authentic films of the year. This is a really hard film to watch. It's a devastating film, especially when I watched it for the first time. Had no idea what the plot was, and it really shook me, that first act. And then once I got used to it, I wasn't into it, but I knew what I was getting into. This is a very tough film to watch, but a very real, authentic film. And it's carried by, in my opinion, a special performance from Jenna Ortega. In my opinion, her best movie performance of her career. And I wish more people would check it. So check out The Fallout on HBO Max. When we go to number 13 on the year, it's one of the best horror films of the year, and that is Barbarian. One of my favorite theater experiences of the year. The trailers don't sell this movie whatsoever. Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, Justin Long. And the first 25 minutes, you think the movie's one thing, and the next 30 minutes, it's another movie. And then the last bit of the movie, it's another movie. There's like 3 or 4 different layers that you just had no idea was wrapped into one film. And it's, I think, the most unique, fresh film of the entire year. The twists are really good. The story's really good. The performances are excellent, especially the casting of Bill Skarsgård. If you know if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I still don't want to spoil this to people. You can watch on HBO Max. It is one of the craziest movies of the year. I just had tons of fun with Barbarian, and I wish more movies like this were being made. Last year, that was that James Wan film that came out last year that I had tons of fun with. Barbarian, I think slightly better than that film. Malignant, and then you had Barbarian this year. I love these crazy horror films dropping out of nowhere. Who cares how much money it makes? And this movie did make, I think, more than Malignant. But these are the films that I love to go to the theater to see, to be surprised, to be thrilled, and to really have a fun time in theater. As we get to number 12, movie that also came out in the month of December, and that is Avatar: The Way of Water. I know that a lot of people are liking this movie, and I really do love Avatar: The Way of Water. I think it's a huge improvement over the first film. Now, yes, there are obviously glaring similarities between the story of the first and the second film, and I totally get that. But I believe that the thing that connected me more was the family and the really Loak's story, who I think is going to be the centerpiece for this franchise moving forward, as it does not seem like no one really loves Jake Sully that much. But Loak has a really great story, and him really being the son of Jake and Neytiri, the main focus of this movie, is awesome and a great new direction. The Way of Water, I thought, was a lot more interesting than the world building from the first film. The direction they go with Quaritch, played by Stephen Lang, I thought was very interesting. And I guess the Quaritch and Neytiri dynamic that happens towards the end of the movie, I was all in for it. It definitely does not need to be over 3 hours, but for me, the last hour of this movie is fantastic. It's probably my favorite third act in a movie all year long. It actually got me excited. I was not that excited for this movie. I liked the first Avatar. Now I'm ready for Avatar 3 coming out in a couple years. So I am a huge fan of Avatar: The Way of Water. And now my last movie today for this video, my number 11 movie, just missing outside the top 10, is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Now I seem to be more high on this movie than other people. I believe that this is definitely an improvement, again, over the first Black Panther film. Obviously, with the pandemic and the death of Chadwick Boseman, really that is the centerpiece of this movie. It is one of the, again, this is probably other than Barbarian, one of the most different out of body movie theater experiences I've ever had, where you know that the main character, died in real life, and now you're seeing the characters experience it. It's such a weird feeling to have watching a movie, but the movie absolutely, it doesn't feel like they rushed this movie to get it done. They actually used that to interwove it into the story, which made Shuri, I think, one of the most fascinating characters moving forward for the MCU. Tons of fun. Obviously, in this film, there's great action scenes. Namor was really great antagonist. I don't really want to call him a villain. Great antagonist to the movie. Angela Bassett delivers one of the best supporting performances you'll see all year long, and she is obviously getting honored for that. But it really does come down to the emotion of Letitia Wright's character. She's so fantastic in the movie, and I do believe the music, the direction from Ryan Coogler, they did Chadwick Boseman justice in such an amazing way. And I can't wait to rewatch this over the next couple years, knowing, and even in the decades to come, because of the emotion of the death of Chadwick Boseman. So that is my top 2211 movies of the year. Tomorrow, on Friday the 30th, I'll be dropping my video of my top 10 movies of the year. Yesterday, I dropped my top 10 worst films of the year. So please subscribe, ring the bell. Let me know are some of these movies in your top 10? Or are they not even in your top 20? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. I'll see you guys soon.